Well, good morning, everybody. It's me, Mitch. Today, I want to talk to you about a subject that's near and dear to my heart. And that subject is, well, me. You may ask yourself, the nerve of this guy, what an ego. But that's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because I'm putting myself out there with this YouTube channel of mine, giving people advice. But the important thing to remember is this advice is 100% all based solely on my experience. Now, my experience certainly encompasses taking advice from a lot of different directions, especially many of the carnivore and keto people on YouTube. But if I hadn't proven, and that's the key, if I hadn't proven to myself with the results that I've gotten that this works, I wouldn't be out here. I wouldn't be out here doing this. And one of the things that I garner from reading all of the comments, and I do read all of them, which I think is very rare for most people in the YouTube space, to actually read the comments. I try to respond to as many of them as I think, but I always acknowledge with a heart on the comment that I've seen it. I even follow comments directed at me in threads of other comments, which takes a lot of time and energy. It's important to me that I know the thoughts of those people who are listening to me. I know whether my advice is ringing true, whether I'm presenting it in a way that makes sense, or whether I'm just spinning my wheels like so many other people do, standing here talking to a camera. I said that this video was going to be about me, and the reason I wanted to make this was not only to help some of the new people, and I get most of my views, I think, on any video are from first-timers who don't know me, and the first question out of their mouth is usually, who the hell is this old fart? Why should I listen to him? If you've been with me a long time, you've pretty well gotten familiar with me because I'm transparent. I don't have any secrets from anybody. Not from the bad things that have happened in my life, the mistakes I've made in my life. I'm pretty open to it all. And now, coming on 77 years old, what you see is what you get pretty much. But I wanted to talk about where I'm coming from. I don't want this to come off as bragging, but I do want it to come off as an attempt to help you understand how I learned what I know now and why I'm convinced that what I know is reality and that it all makes sense in this huge overall picture of life in general, of this planet, of how we got here, of evolution, the entirety of it, and the fact that I've been studying this for most of my adult life, if not all of my adult life, because I'm a curious, inquisitive guy with a very high IQ. I live by the tenet that something has to be understandable, believable, and none of it can be unexplainable. Even though we may not know the answer yet, I have to be convinced that an answer does exist. And those answers I'm talking about are to the huge question. Where did life come from? How did life get started on this planet? When did it get started? How did we become the human animals that we are now? From that first cell somewhere back 3.5 billion years ago that sprung into life. One of the problems that I have constantly is that I butt heads with so many ideologies because we all, I don't care who we are, we all believe that we've got it figured out, that we know the answer because we've gotten what information we have. Since the day we were born, we've gotten our clues from the outside world. We've chosen who we want to believe, who we want to follow, and so have I. And that type of belief, whether it be political, religious, scientific, whatever it is, we call ideology. I have my ideology and you have yours. Some people are married to their ideology, and even when overwhelming proof shows them to be misled, you can't change their minds. They're convinced. I'm right and you're wrong. And they'll fight you tooth and nail on that, because to admit they were wrong to them is something they can't do. That's called having a closed mind. If you have an open mind, you have to say, damn, I was wrong. Why was I wrong? Well, I believed this guy and he was wrong. Okay. So now I've seen something new. I've seen something that makes more sense to me than that, assuming that there's any common sense left. So I'll just admit I'm wrong and move forward. Interestingly enough, that's a trait that scientists must have. They must have that. If that scientist does not have an open mind, it's not science. I worked out this morning. That's part of my daily routine. And so many of you come pretty much out of curiosity to say, holy cow, how old is this guy? He's going to be 77 here in a couple months. Look at this. Look at the shape he's in. Look at some pictures of me from not too long ago. How the hell does this work? Excuse me while I beat my eggs. Thank you. Now, in many of my previous videos, especially the first live stream that I did, and I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes, I really opened up more than I had ever intended. It was my first live stream. And in the show notes, I will put a link to that and a timestamp of when I started. I think a 20 plus or even 30-minute life story about my history and what I've been through in my life and what my experiences have been and what I've learned. I think it's well worth watching. Again, I can't make you watch anything, saying you can lead a horse to water, but if you're interested in who this old fart is, watch that. That's a great background. There are places in a lot of my videos I talk about the book that I wrote 22 years ago on my 55th birthday. Started writing this book. And it's a book about reality. Again, so many things in that book will butt heads with your ideology. And I don't want to change your mind. I don't want to take your religion away. I don't want anybody to do anything other than have an open mind and see if some of the things that I've discovered don't fit right in with what you already believe. But science is science. Biology is biology. Biochemistry is biochemistry. We are exquisite organic machines. And that's what we are. We have brains unlike any living thing has ever had before, which is why we have the knowledge and we've assumed the position in this world of being so smart that we're basically outsmarting ourselves now. And I think we're on a downhill path towards the extinction of our species, just from the sheer amount of bullshit that we're expected to believe. That isn't real, but makes a lot of people a lot of money. I try to use what I know about science and what I know about biology. And most of the stuff that I know, sadly, isn't part of the medical curriculum anymore. Doctors aren't even taught nutrition other than how to keep a patient alive on a feeding tube or intravenously. Metabolic health seems to be one of the most misunderstood areas of biological science, and yet I've proven to myself that it is, without a doubt, the most important. If the machinery is gummed up and doesn't work, you're not healthy and you suffer. We've been poisoning ourselves for 100 years by people who have capitalized because they've learned enough about chemistry to become the consummate drug dealers. The cartels could learn a thing or two from these people. And they've got us all hooked. And instead of a drug dealer on every corner, we got a 7-Eleven full of a drug called sugar and seed oils and grains that we are so hardly addicted to. We can't live without it. I have almost 200 videos on this channel that I've made over the past 7 months or so. It's just been a lot of work, a lot of time for very little reward, other than those of you who have said that they took my advice over after trial and error and failure after failure, and it actually worked. And that makes me proud and happy. Carnivore has been the first sustainable, enjoyable lifestyle that I've ever found. And I highly recommend it. Take the rest of the day off if you'd like, but eat meat.